So for this first episode, I'm going to start with like an opening topic, maybe some sort of current event or whatnot. But I decided to keep it on topic for today since it's the first episode. So I wanted to ask you, what, if you can recall, is your first experience with Godzilla, and how did it all sort of come about for you, and how did you get really involved in? Because as long as I've known you, you've been into it.
Yeah, no, that's quite fair because dang, I actually don't this is the thing. I don't know where it technically started. I could say, even though I think every Godzilla fan is probably gonna crucify me for saying this, but like,
Oh no, I know where this is going.
yeah, I know. It's I had a little film called Godzilla 1998 on VHS. So, my brother and sister grew up in the 90s, so they had that VHS tape and I had all their VHS collections, so I watched it. I will not deny it. I was also at that time going through my dinosaur phase, so Godzilla's kind of like an extension of that. Technically, I've not
Hmm.
outgrown my dinosaur phase, but that's beside the point.
Based.
But I would say technically my true, like, as you say, authentic Godzilla experience was renting the movies at the local library, you know.
Yeah.
Um it was usually if the thing was like, especially at the local library, and I mean I know this is similar to you too, but God, it's either or like it's either some of like the worst of the worst or slash
Hmm.
like the worst that's really good.
No.
Or it's
Okay.
like the millennial era of Godzilla.
Yeah. The library in Walton, the closest one to us. The only two movies I ever remember them having was Godzilla versus Megaguirus or Megagyrus, however the hell you want to say it, and
Mhm.
versus Hedorah.
Yeah, no, Smog
Yeah.
Monster, really, like, it was just
Yeah.
those. I think, I went to the Union one, and they had a couple different ones because I remember
Hmm.
watching, I think at some point I watched 2000, like, it was a bit rare to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Boone County had that one as well.
But, like, I
But
mean,
yeah.
half the time it really was just either Megagyrus or Hedorah, and I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know which one's
What a
the,
hell of a
like.
selection.
Yeah, we got Mechagodzilla, which is another dragonfly kaiju, versus Hedorah, which is just
Okay.
an acid trip.
I do have a soft spot for. I've always said Megaguirus, but I know so many people say Megagyrus, but because there's like scenes in there with a bunch of Godzilla toys, and they were like the
Mm.
Bandai vinyls, and I remember being like, have those, and I really like that one. But it's like the most run of the mill Millennium Godzilla movie.
It is like the bare bones of bare
Yeah,
bones in the Millennium era,
and
which
then
is
Smog
yeah.
Monster is just
There's so much,
there's
but
too much to talk about. Yeah, we'll save
yeah,
that for
but
another
yeah, we'll
episode.
get to that eventually.
Um, Yeah, my experience is kind of similar. I can't 100% pin it down, but I do have information, like my parents told me. So I don't know if it started with this, but growing up, my mom had seven brothers and sisters, and they all her little brothers would watch the Hanna-Barbera Godzilla cartoon.
Hmm.
And back in the 70s and the 80s, there was a lot of like local cable access channels that would get Godzilla movies and play them as like big events. And she would watch those with her little brother sometimes. And we were a big blockbuster family. At least I was. I
Yeah,
I
no, same
loved,
here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. After like my mom would pick me up from preschool, and I remember going to Blockbuster and getting so excited if I got like good grades and shit. Um, but I remember renting versus Gigan a lot,
Hmm.
which
Yeah.
is probably one of the most bare bone Showa era ones. But I mean that one's got like a giant Godzilla statue theme
I
park
would
thing.
say, yeah, I mean I
But
would say even with Showa being its bare bones, it's still pretty interesting.
yeah,
But Showa's era
Millennium.
is, like, all over the place, so really even its bare bones is still quite interesting in versus to a bare bones version movie in the Heisei series or,
Well, I
for
also
example.
think a lot of it has to do with sort of westernization of the
Yeah.
film.
Oh, yeah,
As the
that's true.
Millennium era came along, like everything was more focused on a Western audience, whereas the Showa films were just directors having fun for the most part,
Yeah.
just making fun shit.
Mhm,
Um, but yeah, it's hard to pin down for me like exactly one thing. I would probably credit it at least to the Hanna-Barbera cartoon because
mhm,
my mom was probably walking me down the aisle in Blockbuster when I was, I've got
mhm,
memories back to being 2 or 3, but like before that, she probably saw a Godzilla movie on the shelf and was like, "Hey," and picked it up just remembering,
mhm,
the cartoon. So I'd probably like spiritually give it to the Hanna-Barbera show, but just I've always had knowledge. I've always known that there was these sections. I didn't know their names as a kid, but there was never one that I was like, "Yes." That was the first one. I
yeah, no.
definitely was predisposed to 2000s design. Well,
Yeah.
you know what? I'd actually say Godzilla Unleashed on the Wii
Ooh.
was a really big sort of eye-opening thing because there was the different versions of Godzilla. Um, Morgira, the robot thing. What was that from? Was
Oh,
that from Mechagodzilla 2?
you mean
Um,
Magura? Magura?
I guess
Yeah,
I
Magura,
only
yeah.
know him because he comes out of the ground and goes Morgira.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So
because I didn't know who he was. I found him out through
mhm,
the video game and because I'd never had Mechagodzilla 2 until some
yeah.
point I found a thrift store VHS. But
Yeah. And also,
yeah,
I think another thing, if we don't want to say exactly Godzilla related, but I think also because by that time, I mean, we're about 5 years old. The remake of King Kong came out too, which I think that was
yeah,
quite beneficial. Like,
yeah,
it opened our
absolutely.
eyes to that. And
That's another thing I really, really remember vividly hunting at Blockbuster was the original RKO King Kong movie.
mhm.
That one, and I rented the 1970 whatever one, the one with
Oof.
is that Jeff Bridges? Yeah, the one where he
The one with the
climbs the
oil
World Trade
company?
Centers.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
oil company. Gosh.
yeah, and he gets fucking murked. That was so fucking bloody. Oh my god, that was horrifying.
Mhm.
Yeah, but regardless, King Kong was really important to my
Yeah. And I mean, I would say 2005's King Kong remake, like, was very benefit like,
and
very
so many people like I just totally forgot about how huge that was.
Yeah, no,
That
honestly.
was massive. That was because it was like the thing he did after Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
and it was this massive like beast of a movie, and there's marketing everywhere. I had toys. I remember seeing the toys in Walgreens. I
I'm still
it
sad that I
was
only got 1 toy from it, and it wasn't even, like, the Kong
dude.
that was, like had his arms down to his side, it was the one
Yeah.
with the V-Rex, which, I mean, yeah, it's cool, I got
Yeah,
the
the
V-Rex, but,
smashing
like
one. Yeah.
but Kong is permanently, like, trying to pry open an invisible jaw, which is like, "Oh,"
Yeah.
a
I
bit saddened, but,
I actually there was a KB Toys in the Florence Mall closed long time ago. I don't but I have a couple memories. I remember getting a Jabba action figure there because I was in love with Jabba. Not like okay,
you
hang on.
love you love the slug?
Let's backpedal a little bit.
You love
Um,
the slug?
I Jabba was like my favorite Star Wars character. Him and the clones.
Wait, what? I
You didn't
did
know
not
that?
No, I did
Yeah,
not
yeah. Jabba. I loved
That's
it. It,
funny.
it probably had something to do with Ula. Um, and I really, really liked the special edition music
Oh,
video.
oh, you are this is
Yeah,
this is off topic.
but I had to, yes. Well, now I want to talk about the special editions, but that's yeah, totally different thing. I bought all my Godzilla vinyls and King Kong toys from that KB Toys.
Mhm.
And I remember saving up to buy the big Kiryu vinyl,
Mhm.
the big one. And it was the only one I had of that size. And my mom was like, "You sure you don't want the smaller one?" And I was like, "No, I want the big one."
I want big boy.
But then I had the big one. It was way bigger than all the other things I had. So, yeah, most of my Kong stuff I sold, and I'm so upset about it. I had that giant Kong. I had the Skull Island playset. I begged for that for Christmas.
You
Begged.
sold oh,
And I
man.
remember waking up at like 3 in the morning. Everyone else was asleep and creeping out to the living room and seeing the Christmas lights on and seeing it under the tree. It was unwrapped. Everything was framing it. And I like shit my pants. I was like, no way. Santa did it. He actually did it. He pulled it off. And I like ran back to my room because I was like, oh, I shouldn't have seen that.
What a grand heist, Santa.
Yeah. Well,
Santa.
you know,
Yeah.
speaking of getting really off topic, hey, welcome to Kaiju Cookies, where we watch grown men in rubber suits smack each other for 2 hours and then overanalyze them more than your high school English teacher. I'm your co-host, Joey,
And I'm your other co-host, Ben.
and let's get right into today's feature. So with it being our first episode, we saw it appropriate to take it back to where it all started. The original Japanese Gojira from 1954. So we'll be grading these movies on a 5-point scale. Point 1 is overall plot and story. That's an objective review of the narrative and story itself. Point 2 is the effects and suits. Mostly subjective, but with influence, from the overall fan base and sort of looking at it, the standards of the day and today's standards. Point 3 is writing and cinematography. That's an objective and subjective look at the actual film craft involved. And point 4 is importance to the kaiju canon and story of the associated franchise, as well as pop culture. Mostly our subjective opinion based on objective facts and sort of how we've seen this influence the fan base and pop culture as a whole. And point 5 is just personal opinion, subjective look at the film, our enjoyment level, personal importance, nostalgia, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And each of these, so it'll be out of 5 stars. So we can give, for point 1 overall plot and story, we could give half a star. But, since we're kaiju cookies, they're cookies. So we could give them half a cookie. And whichever one is the best out of those 5 points, we give the atomic cookie. That's a full
cookie.
Yeah. that's a full glowing cookie. This is the reason to watch this film. This is the best aspect of it. I'm sure we will get to some where
This
they
one's
don't
gonna be
get
difficult
an atomic cookie.
overall, I would say.
Giving an atomic cookie, I think I know
We'll
which one
we'll
it's
get
going to
there
go
when we get
to
there,
just
but
right
this
off the
is
bat,
definitely a
but
tough one
we'll
to
wait.
start out with, with that.
Yeah,
But that just shows the
definitely. Yeah,
quality of it
so
already.
exactly. At the end of the episode, we'll tally up the cookies and partially eaten cookies and give a point received, or each point received to get a rating out of 5. So yeah. Starting off with overall plot and story, your objective review. What did you think? Well, we've all seen it before, or at least
I
you and
hope
I
so if
have.
people,
Yeah,
who's watching right now.
yeah. If you haven't seen this movie, you need to see this movie. It
Yeah,
is.
it's not
It's.
it's not even like a contest. If you truly think you are
Mhm.
a kaiju fanatic or bit obsessed with monster movies, I would even people in general who want to like learn about film, I think Gurjiro is probably one of like the movie I would show people to. I know, especially
Yeah,
with my, in college right now, I'm actively trying to get people to watch this thing, and this just
yeah.
shows that even yeah,
And in 2010, it was ranked by Empire magazine as number 31 of the 100 best films of world
jeez.
cinema, and I think that is
Mhm,
huge. A monster movie.
mhm.
It shows how profound this. It has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I don't give a shit about Rotten Tomatoes
Yeah,
scores.
no.
They're bogus, but it has a 93% on Rotten
One time
Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes is
A
actually
a creature feature.
yeah,
Yeah.
one time Rotten Tomatoes got it right.
Let me see what Endgame is at on Rotten Tomatoes.
I'm assuming that's probably 95 if anything, to be honest.
94%. It's
Oh, I was off.
1%. It's 1% higher than
Wow.
Gojira. That's insane.
Wow. But I mean, also that's like a difference
Ah,
of like
yeah,
years.
it's a totally different ballpark. I was just pulling like the biggest event thing. I know No Way Home's higher. That's like 97 or 98.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, this script is so tight.
Hmm.
There's some meandering in the beginning, and there's a lot of main characters, which is kind of a caveat of a lot of Japanese films. Um,
Yeah, they always have like especially how they write characters and how they write stories. They kind of it's almost they write a collective versus like, hey, this is the main character and then these are the side characters around it. It's more of the collective or the group as a whole, which is I think that's quite fascinating. It's very different how,
yeah,
doing it in
and
the
it's a cultural
States.
thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
in Japan, it's a lot of times it's really focused on the community, and I think Shin Godzilla is a really good sort of continuation of that. Two very different sort of driving forces behind the plot.
Well, it's also again like versus like this is the first of its kind, really.
Mhm.
I mean besides King Kong who came out I think like 1929 or something. I know it was close to like late 20s,
32,
early 30s.
32 or 34.
Oh. But like, Kong was certainly its first of its kind and Godzilla was technically the second one by far. I mean, there's probably something in between there, but when you think of giant monsters it really is Godzilla and Kong, really, and for especially for Godzilla's first movie, it established this of several, motifs and themes, and I mean, even I guess you would
Mhm.
say, caricatures it into a way, as in like it's some of its franchises, kind of just
Yeah,
archetypes in its own right. So when you get to Shin Godzilla, it's kind of like, oh well, this is very similar to the original one, but also, in comparison to the first one, this is the first time it's done it, you know?
yeah. Well, let's kind of go over the overall
Yeah.
plot. So it starts with essentially a fishing vessel going missing in the Pacific, and there's all this hubbub of like, oh, everyone's worried about their loved ones that were on that boat, and one of our main characters, Hideto Ogata. Ogata is one of our main characters. He works for this company, and he's brought in to help figure out what's going on. And some of these survivors wash up at Odo Island. They say, yeah, it was this sort of spirit of the ocean that controlled fishing yields for this small community, this village believed in, and they called it Gojira. It's kind of laughed off at first. They bring
Like paleontologists, I think, or,
yeah,
geologists.
that's Dr. Yamane. He comes in and helps sort of try and figure out what's going on. They bring in experts. So Godzilla surfaces at one point in at Odo Island and destroys the village, and they bring him there and they find radiation. They talk about the contaminated well. They find a trilobite in his footprint. And they're like, "Oh, this is a perfectly preserved trilobite. This is a prehistoric creature." And they slowly start realizing what's going on, and then there's this subplot with Emiko Yamane and Ogata, who they're in love, but Emiko is um, betrothed to Dr. Daisuke Sarazawa, who is a scientist who's working on this secret weapon, and Emiko is Dr. Yamane's son. So there's reasons for all these characters to be involved in this plot, and that's one of the complaints I could see is that like there there's a love triangle, there's this mad scientist, there's a paleontologist, there's just a sort of blue collar guy trying to do his job and find these missing fishermen. Um,
Mhm.
but somehow it's all so tightly wound together and it's all really fast paced, but it isn't afraid to slow things down and give these really beautiful character moments between Emiko and Hideo and Daisuke, they all have their moments to shine. Especially Dr. Yamane or Professor Yamane. I don't know what his title was, but like that scene of him sitting in his office really stuck out to us this time
Oh,
we
like
watched
the
it.
one where it's at night, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
and Emiko comes in and he asks her to leave and just asks her to turn off the lights, and it just the camera just kind of hangs there on him. It's this really
Yeah.
profound moment of like this is a man of science who wants this creature to be studied,
Mm.
but everyone wants it destroyed. So it's this sort of moral ambiguity there.
Yeah.
But Godzilla surfaces, wreaks some havoc. They're all like shit, and Emiko's pressuring Serizawa about this weapon. He shows her the oxygen destroyer,
Yeah.
which essentially liquidates oxygen molecules. And she's like, "Oh wow, that's horrifying." And Serizawa's like, "Yeah, that's why I got to keep it a secret." And then Godzilla surfaces in Tokyo. All hell breaks loose. There's a huge monster rampage,
Mm.
and
Entire city is lit on fire, basically, yeah.
yeah, there's all these efforts by the Japanese government to try and stop this thing. They, quickly erect these electricity lines and all this stuff. You got tanks, you got planes, standard kaiju fare, and none of it works. And it's then sort of the aftermath, and it's a very Hiroshima, Nagasaki evocative of all these people being hurt and dying, and these massive shelters and care facilities set up, and like a crying child having its dead mother ripped from its arms, stuff like that. And
Jesus, yeah.
Emiko tells Ogata about Serizawa's oxygen destroyer. She's like, I can't keep a secret anymore because that's the only thing that can stop this thing. And Ogata goes with her to confront Serizawa, and they have this scuffle. Serizawa actually like bonks Ogata over the head and like cuts his head open, like physically
I think he knocks him
overpowers
out.
him.
Does he not knock him out? Because they kinda flash.
No, yeah, they do this sort of like they start scuffling and they sort of scuffle off screen, and it holds sort of on this desk, and then you see Ogata sort of fall down. He's got blood all over his face. But I mean,
Mhm,
it's showing how Serizawa is so dedicated. He's like, this thing cannot fall into the wrong hands.
mhm.
But they show him the aftermath on the television, and there's like this haunting sort of choir of children singing, and he's like, okay, fine. But he gets up and he burns his notes. He's like, but if I'm doing this, no one else will ever get this ever again.
Mm,
And in the end, Serizawa puts on a dive suit with Ogata, and they go down to the ocean where Godzilla is sleeping, and they activate the oxygen destroyer. Ogata's pulled back up, but Serizawa cuts his line, leaving him down there to be killed by the oxygen destroyer, thus sealing its secret with him.
mm.
And just that moment of
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite shots of the
yeah.
movie.
Does
You
it not
get
just, like, end on, like, the roaring like, just, like, the, calm ocean, basically?
Yes, but I was referencing there's the shot of Serizawa cutting his line and that
Oh, yeah.
flash of the knife. That's beautiful. And then
Mhm,
there's Serizawa's face framed by the scuba suit. But also after everyone slowly realizes what happened, when they pull the line up and they see that it's cut, and uh Yamane takes off his hat, and like it's just this really beautiful shot of his face. I think he says like God help us all or something like that. I
mm.
don't remember the specific line, and then it ends on the ocean, and it's like this really somber note, but
Yeah, no, you and what I remember is that, basically, isn't, like, the entire, like, boat crew, like, they're cheering,
mhm,
they're, like, applauding, but, like, I think it
yeah,
holds on the professor, and he's just kinda like, this creature was just
yeah,
killed.
and there's also
Oh, yeah.
Ogata and Emiko,
Yeah, they're
and
distraught by that.
there's the kid from Odo Island. I
Oh, yeah.
don't even know if he ever received an on-screen name, but he was the one who pulled the line up, and they're all like actually distraught, and there's
Mhm,
like because they just realized that their friend just killed himself. The man Emiko was betrothed to marry, and it's clear that Serizawa knew what was going on between them, that they both loved each other, and there's this really somber hanging in the air of like Ogata and Emiko are now free to be with each other, but at
Yeah.
what cost?
Mhm.
And that's the final sort of tying in of this love triangle plot line, that this the solution to the whole Godzilla Kaiju plot just completely affects the solution to the love triangle plot. And they're really tied well together. And that's a thing that a lot of Godzilla movies lack, is actual care in the human characters and their story.
Or actually good human characters, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like we just kinda have human characters just as a way to get from point A to point B so that we can get the kaijus to do or to get to that point,
Yeah.
or
Godzilla
or
versus
just have
Kong.
some kind of, plot that's like, "Oh, it's not just monsters fighting." But, I mean, at that point, it's more of, like, filler leading to the next Godzilla fight, but this movie, I mean, I don't know, it's just you can't even argue that at all because I would say this is the strongest human characters we've had in, like, almost the entire franchise. I can't Now, I don't necessarily know for all of them, obviously, but I mean, there's a reason why this is, like, coveted as the one like, the
Hmm.
top of the top, it's
Yeah.
kickstarted not only monster movies, but it kickstarted the kaiju movie,
Yeah.
so
I think the only characters in any Godzilla films that come close to these ones are Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. That has some of the best characters in any modern Godzilla movie.
mhm,
Um, Bryan Cranston in 2014,
yeah.
although he was really wasted, it kind of sucks. He had an amazing performance, and I think that he could have really done something there. I don't hate Aaron Taylor Johnson in that movie like a lot of people
But,
do,
I mean, after
but
Bryan
yeah,
Cranston's,
compared to
big
Cranston,
speech like, his big speech about his wife dying here,
yeah.
I don't think I don't think it's unfair to really say, "Yeah, we did lose like, a
I
really
remember sitting
important."
in the movie theater watching him die and being like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah. That's no here or there, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I,
I
I do
think
have the list of the cast here. I just wanted to list out real quick. Akihiko Hirata as Daisuke Serizawa. He returns to Godzilla movies a lot, actually. I think he did 4 or 5, something like that. Don't quote me
really?
on that. Yeah, yeah, he came back a lot and just played different characters. Um,
That's kinda funny. It's like,
yeah, I
same guy.
also think Akira Takarada as Hideo Ogata and Momoko Kochi as Emiko Yamane. Both of them return as well. Um,
Oh, yeah, I'm
no,
looking at, Serizawa's, uh,
yep.
yeah, he was in Terra Mechagodzilla.
Mhm.
He was in,
Wasn't he in
Ebra.
Ebera?
Yeah, he's in Ebra, he's in Son of Godzilla. Oof.
Oof.
He's in
Oof.
the original Rodan, Varan the
Yeah, yeah, that's
Unbelievable.
right. The original Rodan's actually really good. I remember really enjoying that.
Varan the Unbelievable,
I've never seen that.
Mothra. Yeah, I haven't
Yep.
seen Mothra either, the original. Oh, first Mechagodzilla as well.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah,
yeah.
major props to Takashi Shimura as Kiyohi Yamane. Um, that's the professor, the
Oh, yeah.
paleontologist.
Mhm.
Um, it's really a toss up between Yamane and Serizawa for who's the best character. I have a really soft spot for Emiko because she is the self-insert character. She's the one that you're supposed to relate with in this situation, and this moral question of like, I know of this weapon that can stop this thing, but I promise to keep it a secret.
Mhm.
And I think Ogata, to an extent, is as well, but he doesn't have quite as much powerful screen time as Yamane does.
No, yeah, he's not as heavily involved in comparison
Yeah,
to her.
and I don't
Especially
really
because
think that's the fault of the
no, it's
film.
not.
Yeah,
Case in point, she is featured in, the hospital scene, you know?
yeah, and she's the
Was
one
she the
who
one that was
picks up.
covering the child? Yeah.
Yep, she
So
picks up the child. Um, Man, I was listening to the soundtrack the other day at work, and the soundtrack of this film is pretty much just the audio. And that score for that scene has just that child wailing in it. And it is really hard to listen to.
Mhm. I
Um,
mean, I think one of the for me, one of the most profound and, like, for me, heart-wrenching moments in this movie, and I think it describes perfectly, when I think of this movie, I think of this scene all the time,
mhm,
and it's the scene with the mother holding onto her 2 children during Godzilla's burning down, Tokyo, and she is telling them, just a little bit longer. You'll be with your daddy soon. And I think that is honestly one of the most I think
mhm,
heart wrenching things because especially because this movie, I mean, it's hard for us to say this, but I mean, this movie was a response to, World War II and especially the nuclear bombs, obviously.
mhm.
And I think this is one of those profound parts about it because it's because especially because what I've known about this, like how this movie came to be, was basically right after the United States occupation of Japan.
Mhm.
Godzilla basically went into production almost.
There was like a media ban, I
Yeah, but
believe,
they
once that was
purposely
listed.
restricted
Mhm.
no mentioning of the bombs, nothing. And
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure it was the Lucky Dragon, incident. It was a fishing boat that, got some radioactive fallout from one of their testings, and they got all these, radiation burns and all of that, that,
Yeah.
inspired, Ishiro Honda. I'm pretty sure that's his name, right? But, to
Yeah.
get the story going, because it was like a recent event, and I
Mhm.
mean, it's just the many times they comment on that event. I mean, it's also seen in Godzilla's good design as well, but I mean, we'll get to that when we get
Yeah.
there. But
Yeah, I've got some more on that topic, later. We'll get to sort of the societal impact of this movie. But I did kinda wanna wrap up discussion
mm,
on the overall plot. But I wanted to wrap it up with, this little tidbit. The story was by Shigeru Kayama.
mm,
So he was an author and screenwriter, but he enjoyed using mutated marine life in his work. He
mm,
was tapped by Toho in '54 to refine some of his ideas and writings into a tangible story treatment. So Ishiro Honda, the director, was actually the one who implemented the idea of the monster serving as an allegory for nuclear testing.
mhm.
So he adapted Kayama's story about a giant sea creature sinking fishing vessels in what ultimately became Gojira. And that surprised me because that story about, giant sea creatures sinking fishing vessels is really only like the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah,
It's
no.
really not that much. And this whole movie is that most of the movie is Godzilla's rampage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um but
Or the after effects of his rampage, if
yeah,
anything, yeah.
yeah. But Kayama was brought back by Toho.
The sea monster aspect is not even it's only mentioned the 30, maybe the first
It's
20
sort of his
minutes or so.
origins of Gojira as, a sea spirit.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kayama was brought back by Toho for Godzilla Raids Again, which is the direct sequel to this, and as well as Half Human and the Mysterians, which are a couple other Toho credits. But I'm surprised that these are really only the four movies Kayama worked on with Toho. I
Really?
expected him to
Oh,
be
huh.
involved more in the future of Godzilla, but no, it's really Honda.
Yeah.
He's the one who really made this movie what it is.
Yeah, no.
Um, so yeah, a plot and story objective review. If you couldn't gather from us gushing about it, this is
Yeah,
such a
I
good
mean,
script,
it's
and
really
it's
solid, yeah.
it's out of. I have soft spots for other Godzilla stories for nostalgic reasons, but objectively,
Yeah,
this
no.
is the best plot and story because how societally important it was. We'll get to that later, but how affected it was, how topical and important it was, combined with how well written it is, the way the performance of these actors and everything, it is the most engaging watch because this is one you sit down and you get sucked into it, whereas most Godzilla movies are just turn
It's
on background noise.
yeah, or
Yeah,
get to the fucking fighting,
yeah,
honestly.
exactly. Um,
This keeps
yeah,
you
that
hooked from the beginning to the end. You're
yeah, you
actually not
want to know, you care about these characters, which is
you do
it's
not
it's
mind
it's
actually the have human element of it, which is,
The scenes, the conversations with Serizawa are my favorite parts of this movie. And with most Godzilla movies, it's like, oh God, I have to see another person's face. I
Yeah.
hate this. But yeah, you said the fighting. That brings us to our second point, effects and suits. Uh, but let's leave off. What? How much of a cookie would you give plot and story?
It's like objectively, it is the best by far. Like I think it.
I
So I guess
think
yeah. Is it fair not to give it like honestly like
I think
either
I
it's
think
either
giving it a full cookie is fair.
yeah I say
We can come back and reevaluate when we're finished.
I would say
This is
that
our
or like
podcast. We make the rules.
fuck it, we'll do it live.
We're doing it live. Okay. Number one, full ass cookie from both of us.
Give
That's
give that boy a full cookie.
yeah. Now
Munch.
this next point is probably where it's not going to get a full cookie.
Yeah.
Effects and suits. Uh, this film is dated. I hate
Mhm.
that term because a lot of people use it to just automatically discredit things like, oh, it's dated. That doesn't mean it isn't good. The effects here are cutting edge for the time. This would have been terrifying.
Yes.
And some of this shit really holds up. Those wide shots with Godzilla rampaging through Tokyo and the shots of him with the flaming city.
I
And
still think like the one with Godzilla going through the electrical fence by
yep,
far. Yeah.
I think one of the scenes that really stood out to me when we watched this together again was that first rampage on Odo Island. You don't see Godzilla at all until the very end of it, and they're searching for him. But they actually just collapse an entire house on top of some actors.
Oh
Like
yeah. Oh
there's a shot
shoot, now I
inside.
remember.
Yeah,
Yes. Oh my gosh,
it's like
right.
that kid runs out and his parents like yell, "Hey, come back!" And they run back in, and the husband like jumps on the wife, and the ceiling just collapses. I mean, it's of course it's not like an entire building falling on these two actors, but it
Yeah.
is.
But I mean, I think we were generally shocked by it. We're like, "Oh, no, that's actually literally
Yeah,
that was a roof that
that's
fell on top of somebody."
yeah, that was practical.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then right after that, we get the dopiest shot of the entire movie.
Yeah, which I is basically the best way to describe this is like Godzilla when it's a wide shot or at least a bit wide or bigger and not close up, Godzilla is pretty on point. He's
Hmm.
terrifying. The
Well,
cinematography
it's
does
the
a
suit.
great scale. Yes.
The suit looks
The
great.
suit is great. It's
This
phenomenal.
was a
But the
maquette.
close-ups though.
Yeah, so this was it was from Godzilla's waist up. There's some
Mm,
behind the scenes shots of it, and it's a puppet. It was used for stop motion and some puppeteering, and you can really tell when it's used. It
yeah,
looks a lot different to the suit,
and his
and
eyes are
it
big
looks like
too.
Kermit the Frog.
Yeah, he looks like, Cookie Monster and Kermit the Frog in a trash can. It's not
Yeah,
don't look
just
so hot.
like if they were the ones that got all the radiation burns,
Yeah, no.
it's bad. And it kind of stinks here because that is the first time you
Yeah,
see
that's right.
Godzilla.
The
And
first time
what
is
this movie does really well, where 2014 gets a lot of shit is they keep teasing you. They tease you. They tease you. They tease you. And they don't reveal Godzilla fully until you see a little bit, a good chunk at the airport and then at the end.
and then just
But
cut.
this movie does a fantastic job with pacing out Godzilla, teasing you about it. Oh, you see this light in the ocean and then this bright ass flame and all these fishermen freaking out on this boat. You see all these hurricane effects and on Odo Island. You see buildings fall apart. You see giant footprints. You see the remnants of a giant monster attack. But it isn't until this scene that you see the monster. And it's
Well, it's like
mildly disappointing.
well, actually, I would say it's the first shot with him, yes, is mildly disappointing, and then it cuts to everyone running away from him, and then the next shot, which is still the close-up, but it's a side profile, that's not actually that bad. It's more of when
Actually,
it's more of
it's reverse because
oh, it's reverse?
there's a quick shot of him coming up and it's like a side profile and it looks pretty good. And then it cuts, people are running. And this section is edited so well.
Mhm.
People talk about Gareth Edwards and scale and how it feels like a disaster movie. You're seeing this from the perspective of someone on the ground, like you don't know what's going on, and this is a lot more primitive, but it cuts back and forth. You get these really quick shots of Godzilla, and then you get these extended shots of people running and screaming, and just feet on the ground and just chaos.
Mm.
And it cuts back and forth to Godzilla like 3 times. The first time is that side profile looks pretty good. The second time is Kermit the Frog. It looks like dog shit. And then the third time, it looks pretty good again.
And it's mostly when it's when Godzilla has a side profile that's obviously the best part. It's because when Godzilla looks
Mm,
at the camera or at least looks a bit off camera, you can
yeah.
tell, especially with how it's designed, and also
Okay.
his
Well,
eyes are a little wonky
it
too.
isn't as bad as
Yeah,
85.
yes, but you mean that
Yeah.
is one of the criticisms of that, you know.
Hmm.
But
Yeah. I mean, besides that puppet, the suit is gorgeous,
yeah, it's solid, honestly.
especially for 1954. And I think I have a really soft spot for a lot of the Showa designs, especially like the Mechagodzilla and Gigan suits.
Yeah, I think that's
Um,
74, right? Am I right? No.
yeah, yeah, around there. But this suit, to me, besides maybe um, GMK, is the most horrifying. Well, okay, wait.
I
GMK and
was gonna
Shin Godzilla.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't forget Shin Godzilla
Yeah,
on purpose, like,
this
that's
this
the
is
entire
this
point
is
of him.
see
Yeah,
Shin Godzilla to me is overdesigned.
sure.
It's
Yeah.
I think for its theme of nuclear waste and um more environmental than nuclear bombs and shit. It's about like one of the reactor leaks and all this pollution and stuff. I think it works really well for that,
Mhm.
and it serves that. Like you look at that and like, yeah, that's a bunch of rotting dead fish carcasses. Um, but this, I mean, you look, it was designed to look like the burns of burn
Yeah,
victims
no,
from Hiroshima and
perfect.
Nagasaki, and it's this huge, vaguely dinosaur-esque, but super contorted, and
Yeah, I mean, it
it's
looks
it's a
kinda tumorish even, if you wanna
yeah,
say.
and it's scary. And I think his sort of big unblinking eyes add to that for me. Because I think that's something Shin Godzilla really carried over that really felt Godzilla to me is that something I don't like about the MonsterVerse is Godzilla's eyes. They're too expressive and they're too animalistic. And to me, Godzilla isn't an animal, he's a force of nature.
Mhm.
And just that unblinking, uncaring stare is so much of that to me. Showa kind of deviates from that with the sort of jet jaguar, fun loving protector of humanity, and you get some angry eyes and you get some expression out of it. But
God, it's like, what is it, Godzilla Ebra? Like,
yeah, that's
is
kind
that
of
what
where it
you're
starts.
yeah, the Cookie Monster
Yeah.
eyes. I would say that's even more Cookie Monster than
Yeah,
anything,
the
yeah.
more front facing heroic look to Godzilla. To me, Mechagodzilla is the epitome of that design.
Mhm.
Um, they really perfected it there, and he looks like a hero. In
Mhm.
here, he looks like a goddamn monster.
Yeah.
And of course, there's this isn't amazing effects by any means. There's a lot of really clear suit work and strings and miniatures and all this stuff, and one of the things about I love stop motion, and I love when I can see stop motion effects in movies. Here, it's
Yeah.
really jarring. It's not done well.
Yeah, I think that's the one of the things is like I can't remember how many times Godzilla does use like in the franchise itself
I
use
think,
stop motion. I know
yeah.
Kong does it, Godzilla vs
Mhm.
Kong, and I think there's a little bit of another one, another Showa movie. I can't remember
Wait,
exactly.
you mean King Kong versus Godzilla?
Yes, I mean that
Okay,
one.
the Showa one.
Yeah, I think there's
Yeah,
another Showa movie, but either way, it's not necessarily as organic as maybe they intended to. Which I think the
yeah.
point is, yeah, especially because it's like the one of the biggest appeals, especially with kaiju movies, is that everything's in the camera. That like even the monster, the costumes, the cities,
Mhm.
everything is in the camera. So having stop motion is kind of like purposely like not say faking it, but it's more of it's not a literal guy in a suit. It's I think that I hope that makes sense, but like
It does, yeah.
because
It's
it's like, the
clear, it's
majority of what of the all of Godzilla's scenes are this, and then literally 1% is that, you can tell the difference, and it's a bit
mhm,
jarring, and
it really is.
yeah.
And, like, there's that one shot of that, like, Jeep crashing that's
Mm,
really stiff. Now that I'm a film and animation student, like, I cannot watch this shit without being critical of things, and, like, watching a Leica movie, I totally forget I'm watching stop motion. Watching something like that, I'm like, "Oh, man, that's not good." It's objectively bad. I mean, and being an animation student has ruined the, Christmas specials for me, like
damn.
Rudolph.
Damn freaking Bass.
They're animated so poorly. Yeah, Rankin Bass. Yeah, they're
To say
rough. I
freaking
still love
shit.
them, but like, sheesh. So
Sheesh.
yeah, personally, I think I'd give effects and suits. I think this being, I think
I
the city shit, the destruction, and the suit at least give it half a cookie. But there's a lot that takes you out of this. They're the effects are really dated, but it's
I
sort
mean,
of are we looking at this by today's standards or
for me, I still get enjoyment even if the effects are quote unquote dated.
yeah, no,
And I
I'm not
and I and
this
I don't
doesn't
necessarily I think it I mean, especially because I think we need to think about how they were very revolutionary at the time too. I mean, what's case in point, they had to build a entire stage for for Godzilla to go underwater for God's sake,
mhm,
or like to at least be like submerging from the water. And
yeah,
also, I mean, God, the suit, the actor, I'm pretty sure passed out like at least 3 times in the damn thing.
yeah,
Like,
um,
so,
yeah, Haruo Nakajima. I was gonna mention him in the cast,
ah,
but
well,
we started talking about, Yamane and Sarazawa.
but
But
yeah,
yeah, Haruo Nakajima played Godzilla
up
years and
to
years and years and
I
years and
think
years.
I think it said, up to Terra Mechagodzilla, I think?
Uh, didn't he do some in the Heisei era?
Uh,
I think he may have come back at least for 85 in Biollante or something,
mm,
but I met the guy who did it in the Millennium series. He was at a convention I went to. I went to this convention for the Hellboy reunion, but he was just there. And like there wasn't that many people there, and I just like said hi to him and talked to him for a little bit. I didn't get anything from him, but
yeah, no, I
because I was
mean,
spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get shit from Ron Perlman, so
yeah.
yeah.
It looks like I think he was, part of at least for the show era, to Destroy All Monsters, looks like.
Yeah.
I saw a little bit of Son of Godzilla, but that might be because they used stock footage or used footage
Yeah.
from previous movies. But he
Yeah.
does show that he's had appearance in Godzilla against Mechagodzilla in the Millennium era. So he did come back. I don't know necessarily if this was just a cameo or if
He
he.
might have yeah, it might have just been him as an actor.
Yeah. So
But what would you give the effects and suits?
I mean, I still think like I want to not say um I must say not exactly half a cookie. I would think maybe a little. I'll give it a little bit
Okay.
more.
3/4 of a cookie?
Yeah, I would say 3/4 because I think that's
Okay.
fair. As in, yes, it is
Okay.
objective. It is it's dated. Obviously,
Yeah.
there's some effects that do not hit as well as they do, but I don't necessarily get too distracted from that with how the story is presented
Yeah, and
itself.
that's the thing is that it's so good that you don't care.
There's
Like,
obviously, like, as we stated, the stop motion when it happens because it's rare,
yeah.
is very
And that
jarring,
maquette.
and
Oh,
the puppet for Godzilla
mhm.
is very, very weird and wonky,
Yeah.
but I don't think that detracts from everything else necessarily from it. So, I think 3/4 is fair because I don't think necessarily, you know
Yeah.
yeah, so
Okay. So moving on to writing and cinematography. Um, we've touched on this a little bit. There is some and something you really pointed out when watching this was Holy shit, this
Yeah.
film is so modern.
Yeah, that's the biggest and the most surprising thing, and I think, I remember I mean, I watched Gurjira, years ago, and then I remember rewatching it freshman year of college, and this was before I even took any film classes yet. I mean, this is like literally I took maybe one of my major classes, and I did everything else at gen ed. It was mostly because I was doing I did a speech on this movie too, and, I didn't at that time, I didn't, see it as that, but, like, now that I'm, a junior now, and I've taken so many, classes about with cinematography, and I've worked on camera and stuff and, like, pacing. This movie is very modern, and I compare
Mhm.
this to especially I mean, I can't say I compare this is fair to the other movies of the same era, like, in the United States. I compare them a lot to the other, I guess the counterpart to Godzilla was the Universal monster movies in the black and
Okay.
white era, and they were not quite it was still a awkward transition period from theatrical, theater productions and theater actors and,
Mhm.
how to do a scene versus using the camera as not only as a tool, but a window and how to enhance a scene. Because I mean, I compare like I mean, we've watched God, The Wolf Man, and they
Yeah.
have long takes of sometimes wide shots of them having a full conversation for like 3 minutes,
Yeah. And it's
and they
just them
don't
on like
even
a soundstage.
yeah
It's so clearly,
yeah
three walls and a floor.
yeah exactly.
Whereas that was one of the things I was going to mention is like there is clearly some points with that which you're not going to get around with your suit effects.
Mhm.
But all of the shit with the people here
Yeah.
feels like it's filmed in a real place, which I think for the most part a lot of it was.
Yeah.
And it is so refreshing because film at the time, like you said, was so theater based.
Mhm.
And the Universal monster movies really started pushing that envelope, but they still feel grounded in that soundstage. They
Yeah.
feel
It feels
and
like
it
a
it it
broadcast
pulls you out
of
of it.
theater
Yeah,
versus, you know
it feels like a set, whereas barely anything here does, and I think that is the black and white is to that its advantage.
Oh,
The
yeah.
high ass contrast, especially in
Oh,
those rampage scenes, it really covers up like Final Wars is one that really stands out to me that really feels like it's shot on a set. But
mhm.
that's kind of,
But
just
it's
the
like
gimmick of the
versus ho
movie.
its entire
Yeah.
style too, but
Yeah.
yes, no, I get what you mean.
Especially with like all the location changes. But this you have to like take a step back and when you're analyzing this and say, okay, this was filmed like this, but it's really hard to tell in some places.
Yeah, and I wanna come back to especially with how they use the camera because I wanna make, like, a big comparison between this,
Mhm.
especially with, as I say, with the Universal
Wolfman.
monster movies. I mean, as I stated, like, Wolfman, there's literally like a 3-minute conversation between like, Lon Chaney Jr. and the father character for 3 minutes. But like in this fucking movie, it has cuts. I mean, the camera is pushed in, the camera is
Yeah.
moving, it's panning, and like
That's
it's cutting. Like we're having like
there's Dutch angles?
there's Dutch angles, yeah, like,
Yeah,
for real, Dutch angles.
it didn't
The
bother
2
me.
shot yeah, the 2
Yeah,
shots,
the two shot with,
like, the
Serizawa and
fundamentals of
Emiko.
filmmaking here, how to shoot an interview or shoot a conversation, a 2 shot, and even the movies, like, that came before this thing didn't even do that, and I was just
Mhm.
stunned by that, I was like, I was not expecting that, honestly.
That conversation, I think it's between Ogata and Emiko
Oh,
when
like,
she
at the
tells
hospital?
him yeah, at the hospital, when she
Mhm,
pulls him
yes.
into that stairwell and tells him about the oxygen destroyer, and there's these, like, god rays coming through the window, and they're lit so beautifully,
Yeah.
and Ogata is so confused and just in shock of what just happened, and Emiko is just destroyed. And she has to betray this man that she's supposed to love to the man she does love because of everything she just witnessed. It's a really powerful moment, and it is emphasized by the framing, by the lighting, by the set design, and these actors' performances. Just everything comes together to make this scene work so well. And, in reference to the Universal Monsters and Wolfman, there are moments in those movies that stand out as very modern. There's like the Wolfman's transformation. There's these shots in like the antique store or whatever where I think it's a cane he sees that's got like the pentagram on it or whatever. These sort of add to the story, but they don't underscore and emphasize and illustrate nearly as strong as this film does. There is so much hard work, the camera and the set design, everything just gives an amazing performance. And another scene that really stands out to me is that end scene where Yamane takes off his hat and realizes that Serizawa just killed himself. There's this sort of low angle shot up of this actor, and he just looks so defeated, and the lighting is so beautiful. I mean, you could have told me it was from a black and white film shot today, and I would have believed you. It's really something you gotta see to believe. It's some amazing cinematography in a film 65 plus years old at this point. And there's some shots of Godzilla with just these walls of flame. They're like,
And
holy shit.
and I mean, also, I think this is the other, like, again, talking to how this was like the groundbreaking. This was the start of the kaiju era. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it used the camera to emphasize Godzilla's scale with obviously. I mean, it's strange to think about how we've learned. Like, I mean, especially going to go to school for film.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously you put the camera down and you point up, it's called like, the I don't know what it's called. It's like the God effect or whatever. Like basically it puts emphasis and power onto the
Mm-hmm.
frame, but it also shows scale. And it's
Yeah.
interesting to see that in like especially this era.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, again, as I stated, like with the black, I'm not
And I
also. I
think
hope we're not saying like we're not bashing the Universal. I love the Universal monster movies. I love them, but you can tell that they were still figuring out. And
it's also a completely different industry too.
yes,
That being
exactly.
Hollywood, this being in
But
Japan.
that's actually more interesting is that it's
Mm-hmm.
not Hollywood that did this.
Well, okay, let's also look at some of the contemporaries here.
Mhm.
Ishiro Honda was best friends with Akira Kurosawa.
Oh yeah, shoot, I didn't think about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
mhm. That
I
yeah.
actually didn't know this. When Honda finished with Godzilla stuff, he just went back to working with Kurosawa. He was just like a PA, just for his
That's
buddy.
yeah. I
Yeah,
just made like my most
and I think
iconic kaiju movie ever. I'm gonna go back to PA. Wow.
yeah, it's amazing. I had that written down somewhere. Yeah, huh? Okay, because I have music by Akira Ifukube. Um, who I mean, we can also talk about the soundtrack here and the cinematography.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
I That's one of the things that gets me in this movie is that a lot of this music is so triumphant, but that's
Yeah, it's a
also
bit
part
jarring. Yeah.
that's like that last scene where, our main characters are devastated and everyone's celebrating that Godzilla's dead and there's this triumphant music playing. It's like, but you also have this weight of what just happened. And I mean,
And
there's the iconic Godzilla theme. There's Godzilla's roar, which Ifukube created, dragging the resin-coated leather gloves along the loosened double bass strings.
mhm.
It's the sound design is iconic, and it's really good.
Yeah. No.
But it
Exactly.
also does feel like it's a symphony playing along with, like they shot and cut the film, and then they had a symphony play along with it.
Yeah, and I think that shows. I would say that's somewhat the same, like very similar to like if we're going back to Universal Monsters again. Like yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like how they would. We're not to the point where the music was used to enhance. Not saying the music doesn't. We're not saying that, but it's definitely not to. We're still working our way up to, I guess you would say, the modern, the idea of how to score something and score a movie and how to enhance it. there's some really good, like, I mean, I still think Godzilla's theme is very, um, I mean, I'd say it's really, profound. But case in point, some of the triumphant music, such as I would say like the military theme, it's a bit like really too triumphant. Am I wrong in saying that?
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree.
But it's really hard for me to also critique that because it's like a lot of the motifs and themes are like, oh shoot, I would say leitmotifs
Well,
of
that's the
Godzilla
thing.
came from this too.
Yeah, no, like these themes were used for the rest of. I mean,
Hmm.
the Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019,
Yep,
2019.
2019.
Um, that entire soundtrack was just, was it Bear or something? I always want to say Bear Grylls. I don't remember the guy's name,
The
but
Bear
yeah,
Grylls.
it was just all covers of this soundtrack pretty much, and then the Blue Oyster Cult song. This soundtrack is iconic, but I do think it's important to note, like, it's
Mhm.
so almost contradictory to me because there's
Yeah,
there's so much triumph, but then there's the bwomp 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 bwomp, these
yeah,
really deep gut punching, and then there's these really somber, almost empty notes with the wailing of these children, and then there's the choir singing over the carnage. It's jarring,
and
but
even some moments of just fucking silence is
they,
like
they use
haunting.
silence really well in this movie.
Yes.
A lot of Godzilla's rampage is in silence.
Yeah, exactly. You basically hear like the
Yeah,
flickering of flames and people screaming
yeah,
and
and I mean
everything.
that's kind of the thing. Is like it really isn't a score. It's a
No.
soundtrack to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good distinction, actually. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, because there isn't like subtle music behind conversations. It's silent, and I think that's also kind of what makes it feel like it's a symphony playing along to a theater production.
Hmm.
But ultimately, it doesn't really affect it to me.
No,
Um,
I mean,
it's I think it is important to note,
mhm,
but whatever.
yeah.
What would you give the writing and cinematography?
I hate being a broken record here, but for God's sake, this thing needs to be like a solid 4, like a full cookie here. Like honestly, because I think for me
I
rewatching this
think
again
because
was probably the most surprising thing about this, to
yeah,
be honest.
that's the thing. Every time I rewatch this movie, it surprises me, and every time, like, I'll always say this is always my favorite Godzilla movie. It's the best one. It's
Yes.
amazing. It's really fucking important, and it's really fucking good. But every time I come back to it, I get blown away again. I'm like, shit, I didn't realize it was that good.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
like it's weird because it's like, man, it's the first Godzilla movie. It's really important and stuff like that. Because especially with being Godzilla fans, I'm not saying we don't think of Gojira immediately, but I think a lot of people when they think Godzilla are like, oh yeah, Godzilla versus a monster, or case in
yeah.
point, or we think of the goofy shit that happens here, Godzilla flying through the
We think of
sky
we
or
think of the
whatever.
drop kick. We think of him flying through the sky with his
We see
atomic
him,
breath.
see him,
Yeah,
what is it? It's
dancing
in
on
Mega.
Planet X.
Yeah, or Megagyrus where he jumps up in the air and just body slams the
Oh
dragonfly thing.
yeah. Yeah, there's untapped, like, there's a lot of Showa memes. There's untapped meme potential in the Millennium era.
Yeah, we're just not there yet. We're
Honestly,
we're
it's
almost
just
there.
it's so bad green screen effects. Oh my god.
But, like, I think it's kinda weird because it's like Gojira is somewhat of, like, it's notorious and infamous, but it's also somewhat underground because I think people, by extension that it's related to Godzilla, we kinda
Mhm.
discredit it to an
Well, that's
extent.
that's the thing, is that this movie was not widely available in the States
Mm-mm.
until like 2007.
I think it's 2004. I
Well,
looked
it,
it up,
it
yeah.
never it never got like an official digital
No.
release, or like a physical or digital release. I think it was shown in movie theaters at some point in the early 2000s, but it wasn't released until on DVD until later. But you
Okay.
could only watch the American cut, the King of the Monsters with Raymond Burr.
Yeah.
And that's when you talk about this movie, it's like, oh yeah, the original Godzilla. A lot of people really go to that, unless if they're like a hardcore G fan.
But
But
the American
yeah,
one really does do some disservice to especially the themes of the movie.
yeah, and that'll bring us to our next point
Oh, I
here.
would say, should we,
Yeah,
are we, what's our
I
rating
think
here?
I was gonna say the soundtrack stuff
But
kind of makes me want to bring it down, but like with
and
how much it floored me with how good the cinematography was
yeah,
coming back and
honestly, I
watching
could
this as a film student and how much it surprised and infatuated me. I think it deserves a 4 out of 4.
like, no, like, I can't see I was gonna say, like, it needs to be 4 out of 4. I mean, we
Yeah.
can minus the equation with the music here, like, for
Yeah.
real. That's what blew me the fuck away, honestly.
Yeah. But yeah, yeah, next is the importance to the kaiju canon and the story of associated franchise
Oh,
as well as pop culture.
yeah, this is fair,
And
we
that's
should
what I
talk
was
about
gonna
this again.
say. Yeah, King of the Monsters. Something I didn't know until researching for this episode
Hmm.
was that Gojira was panned by critics in Japan.
Oh, yeah, that's
It
right, you did tell me
okay,
about that,
so I
yeah.
got some stats. Yeah, it
It
sold 9.6 million tickets and was the eighth best attended film in Japan that year, and that's just Japan.
yeah.
Like within Japan, like I would have thought it would have been number one.
Mhm.
But it earned $1.6 million adjusted for inflation. That is $16.5 million today. That's not that much. It's
No,
really not that much.
I I
And
was
prior
actually
to release, skeptics predicted it would flop. When it did release, reviews were mixed. Critics accused the film of exploiting the widespread devastation that the country suffered in World War II. They called it grotesque junk and said it looked like something that you'd spit up. I felt sorry for my crew because they had worked so hard. That was a quote from Ishiro Honda. And other I thought this was funny.
hmm.
Other critics claimed that depictions of a giant fire-breathing lizard were strange. They're just like,
Did he
that's a
just say
little,
strange?
yeah, that's a little far-fetched. Okay,
Okay,
okay, Toho, calm
okay,
down.
that's
Yeah,
that's
but
so funny after the fact of how
yeah,
this is, like, Toho's, like, first, like, opening door with, like, kaiju movies, and he's like,
yeah,
"Alright, Toho, calm
it's a
down.
little strange.
Radioactive lizard from the sea? Come on."
Yeah, and Honda believes that Japanese critics began to change their minds after good reviews from the US. Here's another quote from Honda. The first film critics to appreciate Godzilla were those in the US. When Godzilla was released there as Godzilla King of the Monsters in 1956, the critics said such things as, for the start, this film frankly depicts the horrors of the atomic bomb. And by these evaluations, the assessment began to impact critics in Japan and has changed their opinions over the years. And as time went on, the film gained more respect in Japan.
Which I think it's
That's
interesting because, especially at
yeah.
least for us, I know you have a little more attachment to the American version. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched the American version too much, or if, like the full thing,
Mhm.
but the American movie does cut out and even some cases censors a lot of
Well, it's
the.
also important to recognize that even a lot of the Japanese translations of Gojira
Oh yeah,
kind of censor a lot. Like the version we watched, which was the Classic Media's DVD release in 2006. That's when it first got released on DVD. But ours was a Media box set.
mhm.
Um, that that cuts out like mention of Nagasaki. That scene on the train where that woman says, I barely got out of Nagasaki. Now I have to deal with this."
Mhm.
Just like offhand banter in this train. That's censored and but it might also just be a translation thing.
Yeah, but I mean, as in I talk about, as in censor is that they cut a lot of
Mhm.
the more emotional hitting scenes in this movie. As case in point, I say my favorite scene of this is that of the woman like holding her children as they're basically they're gonna be consumed by nuclear fire. They do show it. However, they cut it really freaking short, as in she doesn't say the line. Which I think is probably the most damning thing about it because it's like she's implying, you know, her husband, passed away in in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and now they're going to reunite, just to reassure their children, like, "Hey, we're gonna see your father soon. We're gonna see your daddy soon." And I think that ruins especially, because this is kind of like trying to heal the wound and try to, like, come to terms to that event. I mean, yes, it is a giant kaiju monster. I understand that. But I think taking out that element of it kind of, it does some disservice to what the entire point of this movie is.
Mhm. Yeah, it's I mean, and that's kind of the thing with uh Kiyama and Honda is that
Mhm.
Kiyama just made this as a creature feature, just a monster
Yeah.
flick.
Yeah.
Honda made this something more,
Yes.
and it really does still stand as something more,
Mhm.
and that's important both to society and to kaiju canon. I don't think kaiju films wouldn't be what they are without Godzilla.
Yeah,
That's a
no.
period,
Yeah.
and I don't think Japan would be what it is without Godzilla.
I can't
Godzilla
imagine. Yeah.
is such an icon, and that's what surprised me so much was that it
Godzilla
it
didn't do
wasn't
so good.
it didn't do good. It
No.
was nobody enjoyed it when it came out. People were scared of it. People thought it was grotesque and disgusting and banked too much on their trauma of what had just happened, 9 years before. That's not that long.
Yeah, that's actually yeah. Mhm.
And it's understandable why it receives such a, mixed reception, but like it's so weird looking at how big Godzilla is for Japan nowadays and seeing that that's what it started as was kind of
Mhm.
like it landed with a wet fart and nobody cared until Hollywood was like, "Hey, yo, this edited dumbed down version is actually really good." And then Japan being like, "Oh, our version's even better."
Yeah.
And it really is. It really
Yeah.
fucking is.
Mhm.
Um I think personally this is the atomic cookie. There's no doubt in my mind that the best and most important aspect of this film is the effect it's had on society. Not
Yes.
only was it an important commentary on nuclear war and the horrors of it, you see this through the eyes of Emiko and Sarazawa and realize like making this hard decision of using this weapon after seeing this devastation. And I think that's something the US version does show as well.
Mhm.
Godzilla still represents a nuclear bomb, and it even opens on that shot of the devastation and Raymond Burr, narrating. And it's profound in that sense. It's profound in pop culture because Godzilla wouldn't exist without this movie.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
huge. And as much as I love the story and the plot and the cinematography and want to give all of those atomic cookies,
I
this
mean,
one
it's
deserves
literally
it.
it's literally like I mean, yeah, I was gonna say like, I mean
This movie's the reason we're talking about
I mean,
Godzilla on a podcast right now.
literally this wouldn't be kaiju. This
Yeah,
literally kaiju would not really exist, honestly.
at least not in the form we know it today.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, imagine if King Kong was the huge breakthrough kaiju movie,
Jeez.
and that like or like the Frankenstein.
What do you
The
mean
the
Frankenstein?
Toho Frankenstein.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
why'd you
yeah.
oh,
But yeah, no,
no.
this is hands down the atomic cookie.
Yeah.
We could sit here and talk about the societal importance of this movie, but
Slap that
everyone fucking
kaiju
knows. I
cookie.
mean, since its
Decay it.
release, Godzilla has been regarded as one of the best giant monster films ever made. I don't think there's any doubt to that.
No, there's no.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, in 1954, Eiji Subayura, I probably butchered that. He won the Japanese Film Technique Award for special effects for this at release. That was the only reward it received. The only
Jeez.
official reward at the time of
Damn.
release. It lost out to Best Picture on Japanese Film Technique to Seven Samurai, an Akira Kurosawa
Oh,
film.
uh,
Yeah, okay,
that yeah.
okay. You got me there.
You got me good, Leister.
Yeah,
You got me good there.
it's
But yeah.
so I was surprised it was even in the running for Best Picture given
I didn't
the
know that either.
reception it had. Yeah, but I mean, this was Japanese Film Technique. This
Sure,
isn't like the
exactly.
Oscars, so it's a much smaller Japanese thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and Classic Media's DVD release in 2006 won Best DVD of 2006 by the Rondo Hatton Classic Horror Awards and Best DVD Classic Film release by the Saturn Awards. Those are the only three awards that this film, at least that Wikipedia and Wikizilla gave me.
That's
Those are the only official
that's
rewards.
honestly disheartening to hear that.
Yeah, it's
It's
really
like it's
disappointing.
very much unappreciated art, honestly.
Yeah, and I think
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, you know what? We'll give him the atomic cookie though.
No, that it
Add
yeah.
that to
Okay,
the rewards. I
okay,
want
okay, like
Wikizilla.
yeah, let me go edit the wiki page and add it also received an atomic cookie from the hit podcast Kaiju Cookies. Our last, so I mean that gets the atomic cookie. Our last point here is personal
Atomic
opinion and
cookie.
subjective look. Our enjoyment level, personal importance, nostalgia. Um, if you haven't noticed by how much we've just been, you know, massaging this into your brains, I was trying to think of a
Yeah, what?
metaphor that wasn't very sexual, but then it
That's
was
hard.
still
That's
pretty
hard for you.
sexual. Yeah, it's hard with how much I love this movie because like we've just been sitting here singing its praises. So of course, this is my favorite Godzilla movie, and it'll I don't think that'll ever change.
Mhm.
Um, I remember the first time I watched GMK, I was like, damn, because that brings that sort of horror aspect back to him, kind of the way that the 85 did. 85 is actually damn good. I watched it for the first time or a year ago,
Mm.
and that surprised me. But I'd need to rewatch it because I was drawing and doing other stuff while watching it. But
Mhm.
GMK was the only one that really got close to me, I think.
Mhm.
Final Wars, I think, will always have the nostalgia factor of that was my favorite as a kid because it's
Yeah.
Final Wars, dude. It's Final Wars, but there are two totally different things.
This
Come
is
from
the thing.
Gojira to Final Wars,
It's
what did we do? What timeline what butterfly did we step on? Like we go from this really poignant commentary on nuclear war to an instrumental Sum 41 song playing over Godzilla fucking throwing the CGI American Zilla into the Sydney Opera House.
also not forget there's actual fucking kung fu fighting in this too.
Oh yeah, and it's fire.
Yeah, I know. There's fucking people
It's like
fighting and there's monsters
Power
fighting.
Rangers.
Everything's fighting.
Yeah, and there's mutants, and then there's zillions and aliens and spaceships. Dude, it's so good. And there's Sum 41. What could you not? What? Tell me you don't like Godzilla
Tell
Final
me,
Wars.
tell me,
But
tell me if you will.
tell me that, and I will personally come to your house and beat your ass. I will personally deliver an ass kick to you because if you don't like Godzilla Final Wars, we can't be friends.
That is damn
that,
true.
that, yeah. Um.
It's just, yeah, this is the thing. It's like I didn't watch the original Gurjiro till like I would say at
Mhm.
least into high school or something like that.
Yeah.
And I have every time I watch it, I grow a more appreciation for it. Isn't necessarily my favorite Godzilla film. That's really hard to objectively say because
Mhm.
I like Godzilla for different things, and this one is
Yeah.
technically like the most different out of them all. But it's also like it's weird because
Yeah.
it's like
It's your
it's the
favorite, like
most
film
different, but
wise,
it's
but
also
you're
the most true
yeah.
Godzilla film.
It's
So
it's your favorite in sense of like film and like
yeah, if
being a really good movie, but it's not your favorite in like creature action
I
because
think
it's
this
not.
like well, I think the best way to
Yeah.
describe it, it is really one of my favorite films, but it's not my favorite Godzilla movie. I think that's a fair argument because the difference
Yeah,
between
that's
movie and
fair.
film. Yeah. So
I
don't think I'm discrediting this movie. I love
No,
this
yeah.
movie.
I also understand you don't I have some nostalgia to this. I had the Raymond
Mhm,
Burr on VHS, and I remember when I got that classic media box set that's most of the Showa movies, the one you and I both have.
mhm.
It I think I got that from Sam's Club.
Shout out to Sam's
Well,
Club.
I picked it up and begged my mom for it at Sam's Club, and she said no. And then I got it for Christmas that year, and I was like, I got it from Santa, and I was like, hmm,
Mm,
hmm,
Santa, this is
uh,
quite sus.
that's a little sussy. Hmm. But
Anyways.
yeah, like I remember getting that, and I really wanted to watch Gojira because that must have been like 2007.
Yeah, no.
2006. That must have been like one of the first, releases of this cut in the States, and it would have been the only way I could have seen it.
Mhm,
Because I remember seeing it and being like, oh, yo, there's a different version of this movie that I already have on VHS. And I remember watching it as a kid and thinking it was really good and liking it more than the Raymond Burr one, but it also, everything went over my head.
mhm,
I really liked Professor Yamane as a kid. I
mhm.
think he's the most relatable character besides maybe Emiko and Ogata.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that he's the most relatable character besides all the other main characters.
You
In
just basically said
Serizawa,
you just said
yeah,
everybody except
yeah,
for Serizawa.
yeah. Well, Serizawa isn't supposed to be relatable. He's supposed to be the distant
Yeah.
war
I think
veteran.
it's more of a difference between empathetic and sympathetic,
Yeah,
really. It's like, yeah.
and yeah. So Yamane, his part is really cut down in King of the Monsters, but here, like, he's practically the main character.
Mhm.
He shares probably just as much screen time as Emiko and Serizawa do. Um, and I have some nostalgia for this. I remember watching it in my mom's Honda Odyssey TV, flip down one from the ceiling.
Shout out to the
um,
Honda Odyssey.
yeah, we called that car magical because it had automatic doors.
Oh my god, it's got magical
Yeah, it's
doors!
magic. Um, so that also brings me back to a very vivid memory I have of picking you up to go hang out, and I
Oh no.
specifically
Did you
yeah,
say
you
I
know where this
hate
is coming.
this? I hate
You
this.
no, you know where this is coming. Um,
I hope it's not what I think it is.
so I specifically grabbed Godzilla DVDs to watch, and we put in the Godzilla the animated series based on the '98 movie, um,
Yeah.
and we were
Oh
watching it.
no,
Yeah,
no.
and you were saying, yeah, this is the real Godzilla. This
Nope.
is real Godzilla. And I remember, like, this was first grade, dude. I remember leaning in my chair, leaning away from you and looking at you and being like,
Nani the fuck?
is this what is what planet did this kid come from?
I think okay, I can make an argument. Now I'm remembering this straight because initially, because I know we talked about this previously. It was like you said the 98 is like the definitive one. But now you say the 8 animated series. I think I was making the argument that the animated series feels truer to Godzilla than the 98 movie is.
I I would agree with that sentiment, but also Ben, we were first graders. So like, were you smart enough to make that connection?
Yeah, so I mean, not saying I'm stupid. I'm not saying I'm not stupid. I'm
Yeah.
not saying I'm not stupid, but
Yeah.
I
I was
can make that argument
but
because at
we
least
can
the
make that now.
98.
We can make that now. I in retrospect, I was being really smart and, you know,
All right, okay.
that theological. I was really pulling these themes out. You know, yeah, I wasn't smart enough to do that in first grade, but yeah, that was like my most vivid memory of you for the longest time.
That's such a bad taste. I feel bad.
Yeah,
Didn't
it
you give me a
definitely left.
Godzilla bank or something like that? I think I remember something like that. A Godzilla
God,
coin bank.
that's where that went. Do you
Oh,
still have it?
I have no idea where it is, to be honest
Oh
with
my
you.
god, because that was
I don't. I want to find it. I don't know
okay.
where it is.
For context, I now work at a retro game and toy store where most of what I do is list things on eBay. And my eBay beginnings as a kid, I would ask my mom if I could go on eBay. She would open up eBay and type in Godzilla and just let me scroll. And I would find one thing that was less than $30 with shipping, and maybe I'd get it if I was good. And I remember spending hours and hours and hours just scrolling through eBay looking at Godzilla stuff because I just loved looking at it. And I remember finding that bank and I was like, that's what I want. Yeah, and at some point I just gave it to you. I don't remember when. We'll have to
Yeah.
see if we can find that because, like, I thought I sold that years ago.
Yeah, I hope I didn't. I have a feeling that I might have like it got donated or something like that, but I'm really hoping not.
Because that thing's actually like $50-$60 now. I looked it up.
That's fine.
It's
I
like
still have
actually
I still have
expensive.
those miniature Godzillas that you gave me, like
Yeah,
uh
yeah.
uh
And
actually
you still have the Omnitrix that you gaslit me into thinking was yours.
okay, let's be honest here. I vividly remember leaving the damn Omnitrix
Ah,
in your house.
okay, look, but I I had an Omnitrix, and that was the only one. That was the only one that was in my house, and it was in my closet. Why would your Omnitrix be in my closet?
Because I left it and then you thought it was yours. I don't know. That's
But no,
whatever.
but I had one. I bought one. I remember going into Toys R Us and grabbing an Omnitrix and being like, "Mama, I want an Omnitrix because I want to turn into Heatwave."
Question.
And
Who's the one here that's named Ben? Who the fuck is named Ben here?
you got me there. You got me there.
Exactly.
Ben 10 Joe Uno.
What is this? Kids next door now? What the?
Oh god.
Oh, we're getting off topic
Yeah,
here. All right,
let's bring it back
personal
in.
opinion.
So let's go over our points here. So one, overall plot and story, we got 4 out of 4 cookies.
Yeah.
2, effects and suits, we got 3 out of 3. We got a 3/4 of a cookie.
Mm,
hmm
not quite, but almost there.
Yeah, almost there. Writing and cinematography, we got a full 4 out of 4 full cookie. Importance to the kaiju canon and story and pop culture in general. It's the atomic cookie.
Atomic. Atomic.
Atomic.
It's so atomic.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah, that's the most important thing to get out of this, honestly. And personal opinion, yeah, it's a full cookie from both of us because we're stupid. Unless Ben has something else.
Because we're stupid. I mean, yes, that's what, but I mean, I made that distinction that this is not my necessarily favorite Godzilla movie, but as a film, yes.
Yeah,
I think that's I think that's clear.
it deserves a full cookie here.
Yeah. No, I think we'd be fucking stupid if we didn't say like give it the full cookie
So
either.
out of 5 cookies, this gets 4 3/4 cookies. It gets 4 3/4 cookies, and only and including an atomic cookie, and most of these will probably have an atomic cookie until we get to like Son of Godzilla.
I
Or
mean, I can see maybe raids again, maybe not, but
okay, but
we'll
raids
see.
again,
We'll
raids
get there.
again.
We'll get there when we get there, though.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll decide obviously when that happens,
and
but
uh,
definitely when we get to the era where or get to during the show era where we're past destroy all monsters and it's just like, so what do we do
well,
now? That's where we're like,
what's the one I'm thinking of? All Monsters Attack.
are you thinking about wait, all monsters destroy all monsters? What?
No, there's the one with the little kid.
That's Son of God's. No, yes, it's Son of Godzilla. Because
No,
with the kid?
no, it's All Monsters Attack. Yeah, it came out right after Destroy All Monsters. All Monsters, the one where it's not actually a Godzilla movie. It's just this kid who's bullied who pretends
Wait,
he.
no, it is called no, oh shit, you're right. What the
It's All
fuck?
Monsters Attack. I'm looking at it on Criterion's website right now.
There's a
1969, All Monsters Attack.
there's a
That
different
was
name.
directed by Ishiro Honda.
There's a different name.
Yeah,
There's a
there
different name to
was
it.
I think, and like the silver boxes, silver box
Yeah.
DVD release. You know what I'm talking about? I think that it had a different name there.
I think that's why I'm trying to remember that name. Oh,
I
great.
always mix it up with Destroy All Monsters and All Monsters Attack, which sucks because one of them's really good and
The
one
other
of them's
one.
absolute dog shit. It's
Oh
horrible.
no.
Okay, it's amazing because of how memeable it is, but it's so
Godzilla
bad.
says I should learn to fight my own battles, you know.
I have a soft spot for that movie. It's really bad, and I know it's bad, and I know I'm stupid for liking it, but I do have a soft spot for it. But I also haven't watched it since I rented it from Blockbuster as a kid, so there might be some discrepancy there.
Oh, okay, sorry. The other name for that movie is Godzilla's Revenge. That's what it is. But it
Yes,
sounds
Godzilla's
so
Revenge.
fucking boring. That's why I
Yeah,
couldn't remember its name. It's another
yeah.
Pink Panther sequel, apparently.
Pink Panther 4, Godzilla's Revenge.
Oh my god, yeah.
I'd pay for a crossover, the Pink Panther and the Hanna-Barbera Godzilla.
Uh,
Yeah, I did as we've got this second here, I did want to mention if you don't know or if you found us somehow else, we are a part of the Nostalgic Network. I am sort of the creative head of that, so it's an awesome community of different shows, podcasts, and other content about retro video games, toys, comics, and TV. Thanks to them, we're able to sit here for an hour and ramble about dudes in rubber suits slapping each other. So it would mean a lot to us if you could check them out. Follow them on YouTube, Instagram, support us on Patreon. There's tons of cool perks and bonuses for our patrons, and you'll get to directly help support the show. We wouldn't be able to do this show without the Nostalgic Network. It was an idea Ben and I had forever until we had the opportunity to bring it into the fold of the Nostalgic Network where I work.
mhm.
Yeah, and if you like hearing my voice, you could go over there and also see my pretty face. And Ben will be there sometimes too. So you can also see Ben's pretty face.
Wow, okay, wow. All right.
I was trying to think if I want to say you were prettier than me or not. but
No.
I decided 2022 is
That
about
but,
self-love.
that
Hey,
that
hey,
just sounded
hey,
like it
hey.
implied that I wasn't.
Okay, it's self-love. I gotta put me first. I gotta put me first.
You just you just paused on mine
Yeah.
for a long
Uh,
time. It was like,
okay.
"Damn, okay,
Uh,
well, I guess."
yeah, we also have a Discord where you can chat with us and other fans, and all the creators are gonna be
I'm
there.
a magic Koopa.
Yeah, you'll be able to talk to us directly. There's a special channel just for Kaiju Cookie listeners where we can all geek out together and talk about upcoming projects or our favorite Goji suit, or how Ben is stupid for what he said to me in the car in first grade about that being the real
I'm gonna
Godzilla.
get seriously cyberbullied because of this,
Yeah,
I swear to God.
I mean, okay, look, objectively, you should be
Yes,
cyberbullied
I
for
am an
that.
idiot.
I think,
I'm an idiot!
like,
I'm an idiot!
you're an idiot!
I'm an idiot!
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, I just want to take a second
Just be
to thank
kind.
that.
Just be a little bit kind.
Just be gentle. Um, yeah, Nostalgic Network is really cool, and I also feel like I'm kind of like thanking myself because uh,
You
it's
know that
really
Barack
me.
Obama meme where he gives him
Yeah,
his own that's basically it.
but yeah, because I'm kind of like spearheading all that. I've done all the design work and writing everything for it. But yeah, I'm heading the toy shows and some other stuff. And there's lots of stuff about retro games and comics. Um, so it's a really
Many
cool place that you can hang out, and that Discord's got a lot of cool people in it. So
Yep.
me included. Yeah, I'm probably the coolest.
Alright,
No, hang on,
right,
hang on.
alright, are we trying to be
Wait, wait, wait,
objective
wait.
or subjective here
Okay,
then?
if we're objective, uh, my friend Fiona is the coolest in that Discord.
I cannot confirm nor deny.
She gave me a giant baby Yoda Squishmallow for my birthday.
Oh,
I think
okay,
I owe
so
her that. Yeah.
but
Yeah, I
what
think
about
he's looking at me.
what about Zabel
Okay.
Zarak?
Okay. I love that shirt, man. I wore it yesterday to work.
Oh.
But
Squishy.
giant baby Yoda Squishmallow baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda,
Baby
Squishmallow.
Yoda Squishmallow. Baby Godzilla.
The
The
last
last
thing
thing you want in your Godzilla movie is a shitty subplot with the son of Godzilla who looks like a fucking dog turd that was stomped on. Manila can. I'm gonna stop myself before I say something I regret. Okay, wait. Manila sucks dong. Godzilla.
Wait a minute!
Wait, what? Everybody,
Vanilla?
shut up. Manila, he sucks dong. Godzilla Junior, on the other hand,
He
based.
fucking slaps.
Yeah.
He slaps.
Is it Godzilla Junior or Manila in Final Wars? Because that baby
I think it's
Godzilla,
technically Manila
yeah,
because it's
he's
like
he's pretty fire. I kind of
but
really
he
like him.
but it's a
So,
combination of Godzilla Junior though, so,
yeah, it's
we don't
pretty
we
much.
don't mind him. We don't mind him. He's
Yeah,
not
he's
that
chill.
bad.
He's chill. He can chill. He can hang.
He can hang.
You know,
Classic Manila from Showa
Showa,
era,
classic
put him in
Manila.
a fucking furnace,
He
please.
cannot hang. He cannot hang. He's gone. He's not allowed. He's banned from my Discord server.
He's permanent banned. He's not coming
If
back.
I see those smoke rings, I someone's getting
This
someone.
this dude had the audacity to vape at Nostalgic. What the hell?
Dude, Manila's vaping.
Yeah, he's
Manila
vaping,
knows
dude.
vape tricks. Dude, that's why Godzilla got so mad at him when he couldn't breathe fire because he's just fucking around and doing vape tricks, dude.
Dude, you're wasting your you're
Yo,
killing your lungs.
you idiot! You don't know what side effects those have. Those give you erectile dysfunction. Oh, well, I think that'll do it for today. Thank
Yeah.
you, Ben. Yeah, I'm Joey.
I am Ben.
Yep. Yeah, so thanks for listening. I appreciate it. If you stuck with us all the way through.
Whoa, oh, there goes Tokyo. Go Godzilla.
Kaiju Cookies is Joey Boudreau and Ben Glavin. Name, graphic design, and logo trademark 2022 by Joey Boudreau. Intro music, Take Me Alive by Def Election, courtesy of Adobe Stocks. Nostalgic Network, all associated names and logos. Trademark 2022, Robert Hickey. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Is it like off topic though? Is it funny that all the Halloween sequels are like conveniently like after the first three Halloween movies, the next three are like really close to Pink Panther sequels? Like it's Return of Michael Myers, and then it's Return of Pink Panther, and then it's the Revenge of Michael Myers, Revenge of the Pink Panther, and then it's Curse of Michael Myers and Curse of the Pink
That's
Panther.
insane. That's
That's
insane.
so fucking funny.
You're kidding right now. You're
No, I'm
joking.
not. You can look this shit up. I swear to God, look it up.
Pink Panther films.
Because there was there obviously the 2000 ones, but there was
Holy
obviously the
shit.
original. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can look up the Halloween
Trail of the
sequels.
Pink Panther. Curse of the Pink Panther. Son of the Pink Panther.
Oh my God.
Revenge of the Pink Panther. The Return of the Pink Panther. Oh my god. Inspector Clouseau.
You look at Halloween, then it's gonna be right there too.
Man, that's nuts.